Hi everyone! In this video, we will factor a polynomial completely. Factor 75q squared plus 120q plus 48. The first thing we always want to look for is if we have a greatest common factor. This makes all of the terms smaller if we can find something that will divide into all of them. And it looks like the only thing that will go into all of these is the number 3. So let's go ahead and factor out 3, leaving us with 25q squared plus 40q plus 16. And as we take out the 3, we can notice that 25 and 16 are actually perfect squares. This may follow a perfect square trinomial. And if that pattern works, then this goes much, much faster. So let's go ahead and just see if we take the square root of the first and the square root of the last and give ourselves our binomial squared. Let's see if it'll follow the pattern. Square rooting the first term, we get 5q. Square rooting the last term gives us 4. And taking the sign of the middle makes this plus. And don't forget we also have 3 on the outside. Now, just to double check that this is a perfect square trinomial, we will take the two terms and multiply them together. 4 times 5 is 20 times q, and then we double this to see if it matches the middle term from the original. 2 times 20 is 40q, and that does match. So this is a perfect square trinomial, and so our answer is 3 times 5q plus 4 quantity squared. If you're comfortable with perfect square trinomials, you can go ahead and stop the recording. However, there may be some of you who are a little concerned about making sure that you see that pattern from the beginning. And that's okay. If you don't see the pattern, you can still factor this just like you do any other trinomial. So let's go back to the beginning and just factor out the greatest common factor. So we have 3 times 25q squared plus 40q plus 16. And we're only factoring the trinomial, so we're going to keep the 3 on the outside and just he goes on at the very end, just like we did on the other one. We'll move forward with the AC method because the coefficient in front is not a 1, so we will multiply 25, which is A, times C, which is 16. 25 times 16 is 400. And we'll find all the factors of 400. Now that we've found all the factors, let's go over to the original and look at the signs so we can see what signs we need to put in for our factors. Because this last sign is a positive, this means that our signs will be the same. And the sign of the first tells us what those same signs will be. So the same signs and all the factors will be positive. So we can fill this in with positives. And now that we have all of them being positive, we can add all these together and find this is 401, which doesn't match our middle term of 40. This is 202, 104, and so on. We're going to look for the combination that gives us 40. And at the bottom, I can see 20 plus 20 does equal 40. And so we can replace our middle term with positive 20q and positive 20q. I'm going to leave the 3 up here for just a little bit and just factor our trinomial. So we have 25q squared. Replacing the 40, we get 20q plus 20q plus 16. Now that we have 4 terms, we're going to factor by grouping. So we group our first 2 and our second 2. And we factor out the greatest common factor in the first 2. Both of these are divisible by 5 and q. 25 divided by 5 is 5, and q squared divided by q is q. And 20 divided by 5 is 4, and q divided by q cancels, so we're just left with 5q plus 4. The second 2 terms have 4 in common. So the greatest common factor is 4, and we'll factor that out, leaving us with 5q plus 4. Now we have 2 larger terms, and we're going to factor out the greatest common factor in those, which is the binomial 5q plus 4. If we factor it out of the first and the second of the larger terms, we are left with 5q plus 4. Now we can see that factoring, either by using the perfect square trinomial pattern or using the AC method, both will get you the same thing at the end. As you can see, these are the same exact binomials, so we can rewrite that as 5q plus 4 quantity squared, and again we'll bring our greatest common factor from the beginning down to the end, leaving this as our completely factored trinomial. Either way, we get the same answer. Knowing the pattern for the perfect square trinomial does speed you up quite a bit. However, if that isn't something that you're comfortable with yet, we can go ahead and make sure that we do the AC method. No matter what, it will always still get you the answer in the end. So either way that you feel comfortable with will work great, and we're all done.